With my presentation, I would like to return to the topics discussed yesterday. And a specific position of being the last speaker, what on the one hand is a great advantage because a lot of the points I would like to touch upon have been discussed and explained yesterday, so I do not have to spend that much time with them. And on the other hand, a disadvantageous position because a lot of you would be thinking more about the incoming lunch than about the constitutional law. But anyway, I will try to I'll try to make the presentation interesting to you as much as possible. To start with, if we have a look at the notoriously known seminal judgments of the Court of Justice concerning the relationship between the EU and the member states, the key element of this, undisputed today, is that member states need to transfer part of their sovereign rights to the EU. That's the essence of being the EU member. Something you either opt for or opt out, but you have to do it. The question discussed ever since is what does it actually mean when you are transferring some sovereign powers somewhere else? Can the state remain 70% sovereign? Can the state remain quarter sovereign? No, it doesn't make any sense. Sovereign is not divided. It's the essence of sovereignty. So what does it actually mean, to live in such a world, and how may we conceptually approach it? This question is even more challenging because this specific characteristic of the EU is the essence of EU integration is based on the two crucial points which potentially, and as we may see even in practice, leads to inadvertent conflicts among the EU member states. The first thing is, as we have heard here many times today and yesterday, the first thing is that the EU creates an autonomous legal order which defines itself as being superior to the legal order of the member states, the supremacy of EU law, which inadvertently leads to the potential conflict between the judicial institutions. We have discussed this more than once here already. Who has the upper hand if there is a conflict? And secondly, on a more practical, but I think, and some extent political, but I'm afraid the crucial level, the decision making within the EU. If you are a new member state, you agree in advance that a significant proportion of the decisions will be adopted by majority voting, which means that you are bound by them even if you do not agree. And not only you are bound, you have to enforce them. As we discussed yesterday, the EU does not have enforcement agencies everywhere. It depends on the member state. So, coming back to the original question, how does this link with the idea of a sovereign state when it arguably does not have the top hand in judiciary and does not influence the content of legislation in its territory, when it may be, to put it simply, overvoted? To start with, I will tackle this question from the perspective of the Czech Republic, because I'm from Czechia, and this issue has been discussed in all the member states, but of course I will start with my own jurisdiction, and specifically because as I will conclude on this slide, the Constitutional Court, the Czech one, employed a specific theory of pooled or shared sovereignty, which I guess was the only actual judgment of the Constitutional Court, or at least the first one, when it was told to be the actual practical state of affairs, not just a theory. This we should see in the context that maybe the newish member states, as we are given their history a little bit more touchy about the issues of sovereignty. Having it limited for the last 50 years, they feel quite happy to retain it at least for the future. So this issue may be more pressing, more burning, more politicized, unfortunately, in our countries than in other ones. To start with, as would be the case with all of us, the very first article, the very first paragraph of the Constitution proclaims Czech Republic is a sovereign state. If you want to be EU member, you have to cede part of it. How to equal this? May you become an EU member state? The Constitutional Court, the Czech one, says yes, Czech Republic remains sovereign, but it is necessary to understand the sovereignty in a bit different way than we used to. Which is a difficult exercise. The Constitutional Court claims, well, the sovereignty is not lost, it's just pooled with the sovereignty of others, hence the idea of pooled sovereignty. And because of this pooling, if you pool all the might together, you get mightier. The member states are even stronger, even more sovereign than they would have been. Does this make sense? In order to answer this, I would like to discuss these three basic questions. What actually is this sovereignty? What are we talking about? Can the state dispose with it? May it be pooled, may it be partially transferred, may it remain 30% sovereign? And most fundamentally, what does this mean for the future? How shall the future relationship between member states and the EU look like? And starting with the first point, the issue of sovereignty, there's indeed a problem that this word, this crucial word, is employed in many interpretations and in much more senses that would be desirable. The classical doctrine of sovereignty, as everybody knows, comes from the late Middle Ages, Jean Boudin and other philosophers, as a theory used to justify the position of a ruler as a monarch, as the ultimate center of power within its territory. We have been discussing yesterday about the medieval patchwork of cooperations and corporations, which gave rise to national member state. And the idea of sovereignty was behind this, to justify why a single person, the monarch, is the center of all the powers within its territory. And it was claimed, mostly theoretically, but the monarchs had an ambition to achieve this. It was claimed that the sovereign, in order to be sovereign, must encompass all the powers within its territory, unlimited powers within its territory. This concept of a single person having all the powers is, of course, irreconcilable with today's understanding of a state. After the French Revolution, you could not claim anymore that there's a monarch holding all the powers. So the theory moved to understanding sovereignty as as some put it, a mystical power behind the state. The power which creates the constitution, the pouvoir constituant, the power which creates the state as such and remains behind it. This was very nicely discussed in the early decision making of the Czech Constitutional Court in its very first judgment it ever delivered 40 years ago. It proclaimed just this idea that within the concept of a constitutional state there are no longer sovereign powers, only competences. The sovereignty remains outside of the state. It created it. And in this understanding, of course, the sovereignty cannot be shared, cannot be disposed of. The state does not have it. It's behind him. It's what makes the state, but the state that only exercises the powers delegated by the sovereign. So there's not much to be discussed here, which moves us to the practical sovereignty. The set of powers that the state exercises. And of course, this is something you can dispose with. You can share it with other states, you can delegate it to international organizations, you may freely decide not to exercise them, you may want to take them back. This from the practical point of view, what being a sovereign state means. So from this point of view, are the states of today sovereign? depends on the on what you how you understand this issue. Does any state enjoy absolute powers? No, of course. And I put forward this this only theory. No, none state ever disposed of all the powers, absolute ones. Does a state enjoy exclusive powers within its territories? Is it only the state that sets the rules? No longer. No. A lot of problems cannot be tackled by a single state. Environment issues. You need cooperation with other states. So it's a good practice to delegate some of the powers to other entities to exercise them jointly. EU is a prominent example, but not the only one. All the other international organizations serve this purpose. You delegate some powers to them, they do it. They do it together. Which leads us to the final question: do the states remain in control of the rules within their territory? As far as other international organizations would be concerned, the answer would be yes. But because of the characteristics mentioned at the beginning, the supremacy of EU law and majority voting, this is arguably not the case with the EU. Now let's take a step back before we finish this idea. I would like to present you the solving of this issue by the Czech Constitutional Court. As most of us before adopting the Treaty of Lisbon, the constitutional courts of most member states had an opinion on that. In Czechia, it was a very complicated procedure. We were the last ones to sign the Lisbon Treaty. It was assessed twice by the Constitutional Court. Still, the president remained hesitant, and as I told you, he signed it on the very last possible occasion. Nonetheless, the theory behind it, the theory that the Constitutional Court adopted was quite clear. First of all, the Constitutional Court admits that the EU membership limits the sovereign rights of member states. That's clear. That's the essence of it. The court, however, emphasized that it's not that the powers are being taken away from the state, but it's a free choice. We want to participate. That's the price. To put it simply. Remember, as Professor Graser was talking yesterday about the balance sheet. You give something, you receive something. You want to be in, that's the price. The court goes on. Even if you have to submit some of your powers, you remain a sovereign state, as long as the powers are granted in a limited way. You cannot give it all, but then you wouldn't be a state. And as long as the transfer is conditional, you still need to stay in control of what is being transferred. So far, so good. But it's all the way just circling about the issue of what does the state remains, the sovereignty. And here the court comes with something new, and it proposes strongly that we shall not look at sovereignty as a tool in itself. You want to be sovereign because you want to be sovereign. But that sovereignty is a tool to fulfill the needs of the people of the state. That is a tool to implement the functions of state. And understood in this way, a small state is by definition not strong enough to do all what is needed, and here comes the idea of pooling. If we understand sovereignty in this way, as a tool to implement our needs, then it makes sense to come together and to pool the sovereignty with other member states. That's the essence of the reasoning of the Constitutional Court. As I told you, quite novelistic, quite controversial because the idea of pool sovereignty has been a theory for years, but not a practical issue of legal doctrine. The question is whether this idea of pooling of sovereignty is necessary. Whether we need it in order to justify the existence of the EU and the existence of memberships of member states within it. There's a unending amount of literature concerning this issue. So you could spend your all your time just reading it. But the idea that this literature tries to promote is the sovereignty of the state as a member state does not disappear. The state remains sovereign. The EU is not becoming sovereign instead of it. Just the powers, the practical powers, are transferred from one entity, the state, to another. To the EU, which leads us to very basic conclusions concerning it. States need to cooperate. Nothing to discuss here. If they decide to cooperate, they still remain sovereign. The sovereignty is not lost by the cooperation. We can see this in many other international organizations. And even if the sovereignty is not lost, what is lost is the exclusivity of powers. Some issues are no longer decided by the member state; they are decided by someone else. But still, coming back to the crucial issue. What with the fact that the member state loses the ultimate control of the rules within its territory. The issue of the possibility of being outvoted, to put it simply. And then, to put it simply, the only practical answer is again the balance sheet. It's an issue of whether you want an arguably more efficient institution or to remain more in control. And as I put it here, the effectiveness control thing that you will have to decide. So what does this leave us for the future? Does the EU inevitably needs to be federalized? I don't think so. Alexander was arguing very strongly in this connection and very persuasively. Still, from my perspective, is not the inevitable way as a necessary course of affairs. And at least in the near future, I see it hardly possible. Maybe on the long horizon, these inevitable forces will amass, but in the near future, not yet. Then, if you are not heading to a federation, do we need a new theory of sovereignty? Arguably not. If we understand it in the practical sense of the actual competences, which together make a state, then we can dispose of them. Member states can share them. And in order to do that, and here comes the simple but necessary element for the future. In order to do that, the member states must first freely decide in which areas they want to cooperate, and to clearly delimit these competences so that they don't keep growing outside of their control, and they must remain in control. Which, in practical terms, again means that if it comes to an ultimate dispute about the competences of the EU, it cannot be the EU who decides on this. It must be the member states, because, and again, as Professor Varga was starting to explain yesterday in the morning, the EU is a tool of member states, and they need to remain in control of that. In many specific cases, this is the back to practical case use. In many practical cases, it makes sense to leave the control on the EU level. The currently undisputed ones, like the customs union. You don't really need to set the tariffs and the customs yourself. It makes more sense to have common tariff. Most of the issues discussed within the EU would be the case of this. There are problematic ones, of course, and in the problematic ones, the states need to retain the choice whether to do it or not. Back to the balance sheet. It's a pity Alexander is no longer here to repeat it to him. The states need to be able to do this and to decide what competencies and under what conditions to give to the EU. And on this model, the EU may be, I believe, built in a stable and long-lasting way. Thank you.